Welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you not one, not two, but three different ways that you can answer questions the next time you're doing a presentation. But first, there's something you need to realize, and this is going to blow your mind. Most questions aren't questions. They are usually statements of opinion. They usually go something like this. Yeah, I got a question because I know in my experience, da-da-da-da-da. Or I have a question because, I did that one time and da-da-da-da-da. Yes, I have a question, but at my work, we do it like this. And it's a statement of opinion. And here's another thing we need to realize. What are the odds that in the 30 seconds, minute, 2 minutes that I answer your question, that I'm going to change your opinion? Exactly. Low, if not zero. In fact, most of the time, people just polarize to their opinions whenever you debate them. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Yvonne, what about those people that have a legitimate question? Yeah, like I said, I didn't say all questions, most questions. So what happens when someone has a legitimate question? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because that's tactic number one. Here we go. Before we go any further, my name's Yvonne, and if you like the content that you get from this video, please like it, please share it. It does so much for the algorithm. Okay, tactic one. So when someone has a legitimate question and they want clarification on something, here's what you do. Boom. AEA. You answer, then you say, let me explain, and then you repeat your answer again. This first answer is like one sentence. Then the explanation, 30 seconds to a minute, and then end with your sentence again. That's why blank. And here's why this is important. You see, a lot of times when we answer questions, we give information, but without a filter or like a funnel to give that information meaning, to make that information digestible, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. So what you do is you give me a one sentence answer. Then once I have that perspective, the explanation will make sense because I'm seeing it through the filter of that one sentence. And then, so they don't forget, you end with that sentence. So let me give you an example. I had a question about the database functionality. I'm just wondering why you did this instead of that. You say, we did this because that's what 99% of people are going to choose. Let me explain. Then you explain it, and then you say, and that's why we chose that one, because that's what 99% of people are going to use. So that's the first tactic. And it's really when someone has a legitimate question. The second tactic is when someone wants your opinion. And for that, we use R, repeat, respond, relate. This first one, by the way, R, you can use with all the others because it's repeat. One of the things that happens when someone asks a question, it becomes a conversation between those two people. You ask me a question, I respond to you, everyone else tunes out. But by repeating the question, saying, so just to make sure everyone heard the question, just to make sure everyone understands the question was blank, and then going into presentation mode, not just talking to the person, but talking to everyone to answer the question, you keep them all engaged. So step one is repeat. Respond is, again, 30 seconds, a minute, 5 sentences, 6 sentences. Try and keep it short and concise. And then last one is relate. And relate means relating to one of the key things in your presentation. So if you had a key message in your presentation, you relate it to that key message. For example, let's suppose I'm at a conference and the conference is about, proactive measures to deal with drug use in cities, in urban areas and stuff like that. And in my presentation, my big walkaway message was the frontline people need to talk directly to the researchers. And the question was, hey, I'm just wondering why you only research within the United States and Canada. There's a lot of places in the Western world that have similar problems that might have had other kind of, solutions. So I'm just wondering if you ever thought about expanding the scope. Notice, by the way, that that's kind of an opinion there. What they're saying is, hey, why didn't you go here or there as well? I would have gone here or there. So in this situation, let's use repeat, respond, relate. So I say, so just to make sure everyone heard the question, it was about scope, why exactly we focused all our research on Canada and the United States, why we didn't look to other English-speaking or Western countries for alternate solutions. Then I get into my response, 5, 6, 7 sentences, and then I end with, and that's why we believe that no matter where we research, it's all about getting the frontline people talking to the researchers and removing the middleman if we really want to make an impact. So I repeated the question, I responded, and then I always end with my big walk away, my talking point, my call to action, my underlying thesis. So that's step 2. If you've been listening so far, I have a little treat for you. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you a bonus strategy for when you can't think of the answer. What happens when someone asks you a question and you blank? What do you do then? Stick around to the end to find out. So far, we know what to do when someone asks an actual question for clarification on something. We know what to do when someone asks for your opinion. So now, what do you do for that big chunk of questions that are challenges? that are people's opinions. Because remember, we talked about at the beginning, the odds of me changing your mind are very low. What do you do then? Now, this is a big one because it's going to be a big chunk of the questions you have to deal with, the challenges. And this strategy actually came from Apple. I had a friend of mine who was an Apple genius, and they jokingly called it Apple empathy. And here's how it works. FFF, feel, felt, found. And I'm going to be honest with you. When my friend first mentioned this to me, I was skeptical, but then we tried it out a bunch of times and we were shocked at how well it worked because it really does communicate empathy. It really does make the person feel like even if you can't solve their problem, you can't be accused of not understanding what they're saying. I could see how you feel, a couple of sentences. I also felt the same way, a couple of sentences. What we found was a couple of sentences. Feel, felt, found. The first two parts are all to get the other person thinking like you really understand their perspective. They're going to go, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you can get that, even if I can't convince you, you will still have to give me some part of the benefit of the doubt. Even if I can't convince you, I can convince the rest of the room that I used to be you by using feel, felt, found. Let's do an example. You ready? Here we go. Let's suppose we're working at an Apple store and someone comes in and challenges us. They say, Macs aren't worth it. PCs are way better value. You pay so much money for a Mac and you just don't get anywhere near the spec that you get from a PC. Now, if I try and argue the point and say, well, actually, it's just, we're going to polarize. You know what I mean? Neither of us are going to be convinced. And it might get heated. So instead, let's use feel, felt, found. And we say something like this. You know what? I could see how you feel, right? You come in and you see that the Macs are at a price point close to $2,000. And for $2,000, you might be able to buy, even more than one PC or like a super high spec PC. In fact, I felt the same way. When I first started looking at Macs, I kept thinking like, why are they so expensive? And what I found was when you actually look at how much free software you get with Macs, plus how they don't need to be replaced as often, like a good Mac will last you 5, 6, 7 years. It actually adds up to be a really great value because you might spend thousands of dollars on software, or you might have to buy a new PC in a couple of years, but this one Mac might last you 5. So you see what I did? I didn't just summarize what they said in one sentence. I said, I could see how you feel, and then I gave a couple of sentences. I felt the same way. Hey man, I'm on your side. We're like this looking that way. We're not looking at each other. We're like, And then once I did those two things so that we are on the same side, so they know that I actually understand what they're saying, that's when I can hit them with information or evidence. So feel, felt, found when you are being challenged. Now, if you stuck around this far, it's because you want to know what to do when you can't think of the answer. When this happens, I'm empty. I got nothing. I don't know what to say. Let me help you in 2 ways. Here's the first one. When you actually know the answer, but you can't remember in the moment. And what you do is this. You ask other people for their opinions or ideas. So if someone challenges you and you need some time to remember, or in the moment you kind of blank maybe because you're a little stressed out or you're nervous, what you do is throw the question back out to the audience. You repeat the question to everyone and then ask for their opinions or ideas. And you use this phrase, before I answer. So you say something like this. Just to make sure everyone heard the question, it was da-da-da-da. You say the question. Then here's a couple of options. You get a show of hands. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have the same question? How many of you agree? How many of you disagree? How many of you have an answer for this? That's one option. Number 2, separate or in combination with the show of hands, you say something like this. Hey everyone, so the question was da-da-da-da. Now, before I answer the question, I would love to get some perspective. How would you address blank? How would you do this? How would you do that? Get a few people talking. Their ideas will probably remind you what to say. Or at the very least, the focus is off of you, so it'll give you time to think while they are talking. That's the first strategy. But what happens when you quite honestly have no idea how to respond? What do you do then? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Table it. Tell them you'll answer the question later and do it like this. Hey everyone, the question was so-and-so. Right now, I actually don't know the answer to that question, but I will make a promise to the whole room. Stick around afterward, give me your contact information, and I will find the answer for you. And if anyone else also wants to know the answer, please come and see me at the end, give me your contact information, and I'll make sure that we all get the answer. That fair? So what happens when you do that? Well, number 1, it shows you're not afraid. Number 2, it says you will get the answer, but here's where the magic comes in. By inviting anyone else to also come to get the answer, you're showing that there is an answer. And 9 out of 10 times when someone asks you a question, it's a stump. It's like, aha, I gotcha. And it weakens you. But by inviting everyone to come and see you, give the contact information, it doesn't weaken you at all. And then you end with confirmation. Is that fair? That's not okay? I mean, what are they going to say? No. They'd be a terrible person and embarrass themselves if they did. And so they're going to say, sure, sounds fine. And then you move on. So my fellow communication masters, awesome talkers, thanks so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on Public Speaking Lab on all the social medias. See you next time. Good luck.